7 out of 10 bottles on that auto parts shelf are basically colored water wearing a costume. They are just hoping nobody checks their resume. I spent weeks digging through chemistry sheets, warranty claims, and mechanic horror stories. I wanted to find out which brands actually protect your engine and which ones are quietly cooking it from the inside. You are driving around feeling perfectly safe. This list is going to make you walk straight to your garage the second it ends. Buckle up. Number 10 is already disappointing me, and we have not even started the truck yet. Number 10, the unbranded dollar store jug. Somewhere in America right now, someone is pouring a bright green jug of mystery liquid into their radiator. They bought it because it was $4 cheaper than the name brand sitting right next to it on the shelf. No offense to that person, genuinely. We have all made that exact choice at some point while standing tired in a parking lot. You stare at a wall of bottles that all somehow claim to do the exact same thing. That jug is almost always old school inorganic additive technology. This is the same basic chemistry that has been protecting and occasionally not protecting engines since the 1920s. It leans entirely on silicates and phosphates to fight corrosion. Those additives burn off fast. We are talking a realistic lifespan of roughly 2 years or 30,000 miles. After that, the protection package quietly taps out. The coolant itself starts turning mildly acidic while it is still sitting inside your engine. Nobody prints that on the front label. The bottle just shows a friendly cartoon thermometer alongside the word antifreeze in big cheerful letters. It lets you assume it will keep doing its job indefinitely. You assume this the same way you assume a smoke detector battery will last forever until the exact moment it does not. Once those inhibitors deplete, the coolant does not just stop protecting your water pump, your radiator, and every gasket it touches. It starts silently working against them instead. It turns from a guardian to a slow-motion saboteur without ever changing color enough for you to notice with the naked eye. Here is the part that should genuinely worry you. Most people who buy the dollar jug never write down when they bought it. They never mark a mileage number on the cap and never set a reminder anywhere. This means the clock on that 2-year window is running out right now in driveways across this entire country. It happens completely and totally unnoticed until the day the temperature needle decides to introduce itself. Think about it this way. Nobody buys a $4 jug of mystery coolant because they carefully research the chemistry inside it. They buy it because it was standing right there at eye level next to the windshield wiper fluid. It was priced to feel like a smart little decision in the moment. That is precisely the trap. A cooling system does not care how good a deal felt at the checkout counter 3 summers ago. It only cares whether the liquid inside it is still chemically capable of doing its job right now. It has to perform while sitting in traffic with the outside temperature pushing past 95 degrees and the air conditioning cranked all the way up. To be fair, this is not really an attack on cheap coolant existing at all. Budget options have a place. The problem is a bottle that never tells you it is budget. It comes dressed up to look exactly as capable as the premium formula sitting one shelf higher at half the price with none of the honesty. And honestly, the dollar jug is the easy villain to spot, sitting there with no brand name and a suspiciously low price tag daring you to gamble on it. The next one is trickier. Why? Well, because it wears a real logo, sits at a real auto parts counter, and still manages to let you down in a completely different way. Number 9, store brand Universal. Anti-fret. One step up from the dollar jug is the store brand Universal stuff hanging near the checkout line at basically every big box auto parts chain in America. It markets itself as compatible with every single vehicle on the road. This sounds wonderfully convenient, right up until you realize Universal usually means diluted down and balanced just enough to avoid violently clashing with anything. It is not optimized to aggressively protect anything specific. According to cooling system researchers who study this stuff for a living, mixing incompatible coolant chemistries can create a gel-like sludge. This happens even accidentally through a poorly formulated universal blend. The resulting sludge clogs radiators and slowly destroys water pumps from the inside. Universal coolants are essentially trying to walk a chemical tightrope between organic acid technology, hybrid organic acid technology, and old-school inorganic additives all at once. The result is often a formula that performs fine everywhere, and genuinely excellent absolutely nowhere. It is the automotive equivalent of a Swiss Army knife trying to moonlight as a professional chef's kitchen tool. Technically, sure, it works. It just never happens to be the sharpest, most specialized tool for the exact job currently sitting under your hood. Your engine is waiting patiently for something better. The marketing teams know exactly what they're doing. The word universal sounds like a gift to a shopper, standing confused in front of 40 different bottles. They are unsure whether their car takes orange, pink, green, or turquoise. Convenience and performance are not the same promise. A coolant that promises to work in everything is quietly admitting it was never built with your specific engine's metallurgy in mind. Your water pump is the one that eventually pays the price for that shortcut. Ask yourself honestly, would you trust a single pair of shoes marketed as perfect for basketball, hiking, and formal weddings all at once? Probably not. Yet plenty of drivers hand that exact same blind trust to a coolant bottle. They do it simply because the word universal happened to be printed in a confident, reassuring font. Confidence on a label costs the manufacturer nothing to print. It tells you absolutely nothing about what is actually happening chemically once that liquid is circulating past 200 degrees. At least the Universal blend is honest about being a jack of all trades. What comes next used to be one of the most trusted names in the entire coolant aisle. Find out what this brand is, and the story behind why it slipped is the kind of thing that got real lawyers involved in number 8. Hold on. Before we unveil this mystery coolant, hit the subscribe button so you never miss a video just like this one. Who knows? Watching this video might be saving your car. Number 8. Old Formula GM Dex-Cool. This one genuinely stings because Dex-Cool built its entire reputation as GM's flagship organic acid technology coolant. The modern version actually works impressively well. The older formula, used widely through the late 1990s and stretching into the early 2000s, became the center of well-documented class action lawsuits. Owners across the country reported intake manifold gasket erosion and thick orange sludge quietly building up inside their cooling systems. The root issue traced back to air getting introduced into the system through certain design flaws. This caused the organic acid additives to react poorly with specific gasket materials over extended periods of time. GM eventually went back to the drawing board and revised the chemistry. Current Dex-Cool formulations genuinely address the original complaints that once haunted the brand. Here is the problem for anyone shopping today while scanning a bottom shelf full of orange bottles. Bargain bin orange coolant does not always clearly disclose which generation of formula you are actually buying. If your GM vehicle still carries legacy components from that earlier troubled era, an incompatible top-off could quietly reopen an old wound. This happens even though the issue was supposedly closed 2 decades ago. The lesson here is not that Dex-Cool is a bad coolant. The lesson is that reputation and current reality do not always move at the same speed. A brand can spend 20 years quietly fixing its chemistry, but the internet will still remember the lawsuits longer than it remembers the fix. Meanwhile, a completely different generation of the exact same orange bottle might now be sitting proudly at number 2 on this very list. This should tell you everything about how much formulas can genuinely change over time. The takeaway for anyone shopping today is simple. Do not judge a coolant purely by its name if that name carries old baggage. Do not blindly trust a name either just because it sounds familiar and reassuring from a decade ago. Check the actual specification printed on the current bottle in your hand every single time without exceptions. Anyway, that lawsuit history is old news by now. Technically fixed, technically forgiven. But the next brand on this list never had a public scandal, never made headlines, and is still quietly getting away with it right now, on shelves everywhere, because nobody has ever bothered to call it out. Number 7. Bargain Bin HOAT blends hybrid organic acid technology. Coolant is supposed to represent the best of both worlds. It blends long-lasting organic acids with a small, measured dose of silicates or phosphates for fast-acting surface protection, right where the metal needs it most. Done properly, it is genuinely excellent chemistry. Done cheap, it quietly becomes the worst of both worlds instead. Budget HOAT blends frequently skimp on the silicate concentration to shave production costs. This means drivers end up with neither the long-term organic protection nor the rapid surface defense the entire chemistry category was built to provide in the first place. The bottle still proudly says HOAT across the front label, because technically speaking, it is not lying to you. It is simply not telling you the whole truth either. It hides the facts the same way a restaurant menu photo is not technically lying about the size of the burger. Your engine, unfortunately, does not read labels. It only cares what is actually dissolved in the liquid currently touching its aluminum surfaces minute after minute and mile after mile. The frustrating part is how difficult this is to catch at the counter. Two bottles can sit side by side, both labeled HOAT, both roughly the same price, and only one of them actually carries enough active additive to matter. Unless you are the type of person who emails manufacturers asking for a data sheet, you are relying entirely on the brand's reputation to fill in the gap the label leaves wide open. Honestly, some of you probably do email them. Reputation is not always a reliable narrator. It can lag years behind the truth in either direction, which is exactly why the safest move is sticking with formulas that have been independently tested and consistently praised. Do this rather than gambling on whichever bargain bin bottle happens to be facing outward on the shelf today. The scary part about bargain bin HOAT is that it still passes as premium chemistry to almost everyone who buys it. What ruins the next brand on this list has nothing to do with chemistry at all. Add everything to do with how long that bottle sat untouched before it ever reached your cart. Number 6. Expired shelf stock. Antifreeze. This one is not really about a single brand at all, and honestly, that is exactly the problem with it. It is about brand new looking bottles sitting untouched on a dusty shelf for years before anyone ever buys them. Coolant genuinely does degrade while sitting inside its own bottle. This happens especially once repeated heat and light exposure slowly break down the inhibitor package trapped unused inside the plastic. A jug that looks factory sealed, shiny, and perfectly fine on the outside can already be chemically tired on the inside before it ever touches your radiator. There is no obvious expiration stamp anywhere prominent enough for the average buyer to actually notice or think to check. Large auto parts chains rotate their stock aggressively, but smaller gas stations and rural convenience stores frequently do not. This means the coolant sitting quietly on that back shelf might have already lost a meaningful chunk of its protective lifespan long before you ever twist the cap open in your own driveway. Here is a genuinely useful habit. Check the bottom of the jug for a manufacture date before you buy, the same way you would check a carton of milk. Nobody would casually drink milk that has been sitting in a warm truck stop cooler for 3 unknown years. Yet plenty of people pour coolant with the exact same uncertain history straight into an engine they actually care about. If the cap has no date stamped anywhere, ask the store directly. You can also simply buy from a chain with fast enough turnover that old stock genuinely never has time to gather dust in the first place. It sounds like a small, almost pointless habit right up until it saves you from pouring 3-year-old chemistry into an engine that was expecting fresh, full-strength protection. Are you learning more about your coolants? Pause and tap that like button so more drivers see this before their engine quietly overheats. 5 down. Notice something about all 5. None of them were exotic mistakes. They were the kind of everyday choices anyone could make standing tired in a checkout line, which makes what comes next even more important, because the next brands slowly pivot into possibly being better option. Down. At number 5, Toyota Red OAT Coolant. Toyota's factory. Red coolant is organic acid technology built specifically for Toyota, Lexus, and Scion aluminum engines. It earns its reputation through sheer boring, unglamorous consistency. It is engineered for roughly 5 years, or 150,000 miles of dependable protection. Independent testers consistently note how impressively well it resists the silicate gel formation that plagues cheaper aftermarket blends trying to imitate it. It does not have flashy marketing plastered across the bottle. It does not claim some outrageous million-mile lifetime guarantee designed to grab your attention in a busy store aisle. It just quietly, patiently does its job, decade after decade, inside millions of Toyota engines. These engines have already built a legendary reputation for simply refusing to die. Considering how much of this entire channel is built around cars that will not quit no matter what you throw at them, it honestly makes complete sense. The coolant running through their veins is just as stubborn as the engines it protects. There is something almost funny about how unremarkable this coolant is on paper. It does not win flashy awards and rarely gets discussed in enthusiast forums the way performance additives do. But ask any independent mechanic which factory coolant they trust the least to cause a surprise comeback repair. And Toyota Red keeps coming up. It appears again and again for the same boring reason. It simply does exactly what it says it will do every single time without drama. If you drive a Toyota and have never once thought about your coolant, congratulations. That is genuinely the highest compliment this category can offer. The absence of a story is the whole story. Toyota earns its spot by being boring in the best possible way, doing its job so quietly you forget it exists. The next brand on this list takes the opposite approach. It solves a completely different problem that anyone with more than one car in the driveway has quietly complained about for years. Number 4. Peak Global Lifetime. Concentrate. Peak earns its spot here because it solved a genuinely annoying everyday problem. It fixed the need for 5 completely different coolant bottles, cluttering your garage for 5 different vehicles parked in one single driveway. Its ethylene glycol-based organic acid technology formula is specifically engineered to remain compatible with any existing coolant color or chemistry already sitting inside the system. This makes it a legitimately safer emergency top-off option than blindly grabbing whatever random jug happens to be cheapest at the counter. It arrives as a concentrate, meaning 1 single gallon mixed 50-50 with distilled water yields a full 2 gallons of ready-to-use coolant. The subtle amber tint does not disguise or interfere with whatever chemistry is already circulating through your system. For anyone juggling multiple vehicles from multiple manufacturers, all with different factory requirements, this is a lifesaver. This is the rare coolant that genuinely lives up to the word universal printed across its label, instead of just borrowing that word for marketing purposes. What really separates this from the universal blend we roasted earlier at number 9 is intent. That store brand tried to be compatible with everything by watering itself down into forgettable mediocrity. Peak approached the same problem from the opposite direction. They engineered an amber formula specifically designed not to clash with whatever chemistry it meets, without sacrificing the actual protective strength inside the bottle. It is the same goal on paper, but with a completely different execution under the hood. For households running an aging pickup, a newer crossover, and a hand-me-down sedan all in one driveway, it is perfect. That single amber jug quietly replaces an entire shelf of mismatched, half-used bottles nobody could ever keep straight anyway. Peak solved the multiple vehicle headache and solved it well. But the next brand up is not chasing convenience at all. It is chasing something harder to fake. Consistency under real heat. The kind that only shows up the moment you are towing something heavy up a hill in July. Number 3. Valvoline Multi-Vehicle. Full life. Valvoline built its multi-vehicle formula specifically around the demands of modern engines. It blends organic acid chemistry designed to comfortably handle the tighter tolerances and noticeably higher operating temperatures found inside today's turbocharged and hybrid powertrains. It carries broad, genuine compatibility across American, Asian, and European platforms alike. Testers specifically praise how consistently it holds thermostat opening temperature, even under sustained, punishing towing loads. That kind of consistency matters far more than most people ever realize while standing in the store aisle. A coolant that allows your temperature gauge to creep even slightly under real-world stress is a coolant quietly setting you up for a genuinely bad afternoon. You will end up stranded on the shoulder of a highway somewhere. Valvoline's formula holds the line instead, refusing to budge. This behavior is exactly what you want from something with only one job to actually do. Modern engines simply run hotter than the engines this entire category was originally designed around decades ago. This shift is thanks to smaller displacement, turbochargers, and tighter tolerances squeezing more power out of less physical space. A coolant formula that was perfectly fine for a naturally aspirated engine in the 1990s can genuinely struggle to keep pace today. A modern turbocharged 4-cylinder works twice as hard. Valvoline clearly built its formula with that shift in mind, rather than just recycling an older recipe under a newer label. That single decision is key. Building for the engines actually on the road today instead of the ones from 30 years ago is the quiet difference between a coolant that merely survives and one that genuinely consistently thrives under real pressure. Valvoline holds the line under pressure, and that alone puts it ahead of almost everything else on this list. But the next brand carries a name that some of you already flinched at. It has the same name that got dragged through lawsuits back at number 8. and what it has become since might genuinely change your mind. Quick stop. Comment the brand you are switching to after watching this. Let's find out if you're making the right choice. Number 2. ACDelco Dex-Cool OAT. Modern ACDelco Dex-Cool represents the corrected, thoroughly refined version of the exact formula that caused so much trouble back at number 8 on this list. The difference between the two is genuinely night and day. This is the true factory specification organic acid technology coolant for GM vehicles built after 1995. It is engineered specifically to prevent the very silicate gel formation that continues to plague cheaper aftermarket imitators sitting on nearby shelves. It arrives as a concentrate requiring a 50-50 mix with distilled water. Yes, it costs noticeably more per jug than the generic store brand orange sitting right beside it. However, the peace of mind that comes from running the actual OEM specified chemistry is genuinely difficult to put a fair price tag on. If you own a GM vehicle and you have spent years quietly avoiding this brand because of Dex-Cool's rocky reputation from 2 decades ago, it is genuinely time to let that old grudge finally go. Reputations are strange things in the automotive world. They form fast during a crisis and dissolve painfully slowly afterward, even once the actual engineering problem has been fixed for years. ACDelco quietly did the unglamorous work of correcting the chemistry. The only reason it sits at number 2 instead of number 1 on this list is a single technicality. It only exists for GM platforms. However, our number 1 pick had to prove itself across an even wider, more demanding range of vehicles. Being second place on this list is nothing to be embarrassed about. It simply means one competitor guaranteed even more years of protection. And in a category this close, that is genuinely splitting hairs. ACDelco quietly rebuilt its reputation and nearly claimed the top spot doing it. Nearly. Because one brand on this list did something none of the other 9 even attempted. It put a number on paper so bold that almost no competitor was willing to match it. Number 1. Mopar 10-year. OEM Coolant. Mopar's factory coolant claims the undisputed top spot on this entire list because it commits to something almost no competitor is willing to guarantee. It promises a full 10 years, or 150,000 miles of protection, using exact factory-correct chemistry for Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, and Alfa Romeo, engines built from 2012 onward. It even arrives formulated with a bittering agent that makes it genuinely unpalatable to curious pets and children. This is a small, thoughtful detail that reveals exactly the kind of careful engineering that goes into a truly well-built automotive fluid. The only real catch here involves compatibility. This is strictly an organic acid technology formula. It must never under any circumstances be mixed with the older hybrid organic acid technology coolant found in pre-2013 Chrysler products. That specific combination is a well-documented recipe for thick, radiator clogging sludge. Used correctly inside the exact vehicle it was engineered for, this is about as close to an entire worry-free decade of dependable cooling as the industry currently has to offer anyone. 10 years is not a marketing number picked to sound impressive on a shelf sticker. It is roughly the length of time most owners actually keep a new vehicle before trading it in. For a huge percentage of Mopar owners, this single bottle of coolant is genuinely designed to outlast their entire ownership of the car. Very few products in an auto parts store can honestly make that claim and actually back it up year after year without quietly cutting corners somewhere. When engineering, honesty, and longevity all line up inside one single bottle, that is not luck. That is exactly what earns the top spot on a list like this one. And frankly, it is what should earn a spot in your garage too, provided your vehicle badge actually matches. So, there you have it. We found 7 brands quietly letting engines run hotter than they honestly should, and 3 brands actually earning the trust millions of everyday drivers place in them every single morning without a second thought. If your coolant happened to fall into that first group, do not panic. Just plan a proper flush soon and switch over to something that has genuinely earned its spot on this list instead. A $9 bottle either protects your engine for a decade or quietly costs you thousands in repairs down the road. The only thing separating those two outcomes was ever the label you chose to trust, standing in that store aisle. Click the video appearing on your screen right now. because it walks through exactly how often you should actually be flushing whichever coolant you just picked. Trust me, the honest answer is probably not what you currently think it is.